Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now July 18th of 2023, and given that Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, has a lot on his plate right now, he is dealing with not only the fallout of movies out there like Elemental and Indiana Jones 5, as well as The Little Mermaid, but also the closing of Galactic Starcruiser Hotel at Galaxy's Edge that is going to be shutting down by this September. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on with Snow White 2024. Another big failure over at Disney that Bob Iger has to deal with the backlash once more. Now, we know that Snow White is a very controversial film for multiple reasons. Everything ranging from Rachel Zegler's portrayal of the character, the seven dwarfs being completely dismantled, as well as the lack of a proper love interest in this actual movie, swapping out Prince Florian and throwing in some random character known as Jonathan. Let alone we have a brand new evil queen in this movie that is completely different than that of the original 1937 film. But it doesn't end there. There's a lot of things going on with this movie when it comes to the ending scene, when it comes to some of the leaks that we gone over a couple of days ago involving the Huntsman, and everything ranging from how Disney promised to make this almost a beat-for-beat take on the 1937 original, yet it is completely differing itself from the core material. So let's discuss, shall we? Now, we know that there's a lot of problematic situations arising out of Snow White 2024 that is being directed, by the way, by Mark Webb, who directed The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Now, with Bob Iger and the board now dealing with the backlash for Snow White, one major development coming out of this film is actually said to actually have one major involvement, one of the major ending sequences. Now, one major sequence that was filmed back in July of 2022, just before they wrapped filming, involves Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White. It's described that she wants to take on the Queen herself in a battle. Both Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler reportedly shot a very intense fight sequence during a thunderstorm of some kind that is going to be vastly different than the 1937 original film, in which the evil queen falls off of the cliff down to her death. Now, Jonathan, who is the discount version of Prince Florian in this film, tries to confront Snow White to prevent her from confronting the Queen, and insists that they do it together. This is where Snow White actually shoves Jonathan on the muddy ground, telling him to stay put as she takes on the Queen with the seven dwarves. This, of course, was a story pitch created by Rachel Zegler that was approved by the writers and even the director Mark Webb and creators of the film, and that Jonathan sits back after getting pushed down into the mud during the thunderstorm. Now, guys, let me just stop here for one sec. Now, this is what I really have a problem with when it comes to Disney, is that they literally intentionally go out of their way by stripping down the male characters, making them very powerless, making them into fools, and just flat out just making them into pathetic losers in a lot of their adaptations. And this is no different than what they have done with a lot of Star Wars projects lately out there, and what they are about to do with some of their other upcoming Star Wars material, such as the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. We have a lot more to talk about that tomorrow, by the way, stay tuned. But what's interesting about Snow White here is that they are taking the original 1937 ending, and they are literally turning it upside down, and just using it as a way to give Snow White that power, and to make the male lead essentially look powerless. And the fact that we have a moment where Rachel Zegler's portrayal of the character reportedly shoves him down into the mud is just infuriating to me as somebody that actually has seen the 1937 original Snow White many, many times in my life as a child. But when we look at stuff like this, we know that Disney is not about pleasing the core audience. Now, at least nowadays, it's all about forcing that agenda, right? It's all about really keeping that intact. I really feel that Disney went downhill, I would say, after 2017 is where it really all started. You know, I think that's when it really all began to sink in. But moving onwards here, On top of this, the sequence is connected to one of the 3 endings that were filmed for Snow White 2024. We talked about that a couple of days ago. Yes, there were 3 endings that were filmed for Snow White. Now, the dwarves are said to actually engage in battle against the queen, however, not all of them, as some do stay behind with Jonathan. Another sequence that was shot for the ending involves Snow White herself destroying the evil queen using some kind of object that was used on set, though it's unclear what the object really is, and how it was possibly a dagger of some kind, maybe even a magical item discovered throughout the film at some point that is used later on, is still a mystery open on the table for discussion. Both Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler worked on this scene where the queen meets her demise at the hands of Snow White, as Jonathan stands behind, of course, that took roughly 6 takes to complete perfectly. Mark Webb, the director, wanted to incorporate elements of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 into Snow White 2024 to add in darker values to this movie. Now look, guys, I'm all about darker tones for a Snow White film. I'm okay with that to a degree. But what I have a problem with is what they are doing to this male-led character, Jonathan, where he gets pushed down reportedly by Snow White, tells him to stay put, stay behind, and that she's got this. She's got this, she says, and that she actually has the power to take on the queen herself, that she's brave enough to do it in that way, after Jonathan insists that they do it together. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this is always some kind of thing that Disney does. We saw this in The Rise of Skywalker, where they literally had to toss Ben Solo into the pit just so that Rey could take on Palpatine herself. I mean, same exact scenario there, right? And it's nothing different than this. We know that, and I hate to say this, but we know that every single movie coming onwards out of Disney is going to really fail, and it's going to fail hard, because they are doing this on purpose. And that's the ultimate truth, something that a lot of people don't want to admit, but I will. They are doing this 100% intentionally to the general public. It's a part of a plan, and they have no remorse doing it at all whatsoever, even to the point that Bob Iger has really been shutting down any kind of initiation of culture wars on their end, and how they don't like to get involved in that, when in reality, let's face it, they really are starting these things on their end first. It's not us, you know. So I think that Snow White could potentially be the final blow, the coup de grace at Disney. 100%. I think it does hold the chance of doing that if it's going to be that bad, and if it's going to really hit them that bad financially speaking. At least in the cinematic sense, I think it'll come to an end. It's going to really bring Disney down to the knees. And though they may survive with the parks, I don't believe they can keep doing this with these cinematic adventures or these upcoming live-action adaptation releases. I just don't see it. I don't see how they can keep doing this on and on again while losing money. So overall, guys, I would really love to hear your take on this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night